yeah, it's an earthquake. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's an earthquake. Rumble, rumble, rumble. That's the opening bit. Hello.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sadie Hawkins Pod.
Well, don't do the welcome yet, because we're still in front of the...
Oh,
the
I thought
clip.
you said we just weren't doing a bit this week. I thought we just
no,
went
I just
into
meant
it.
we're just opening it up.
Hi,
everyone. Welcome back to Sadie Hawkins Pod. There's not really... I couldn't think of a bit for Man of Stone, so this week we're in... just ease everyone back into things, because last week we put the whole machine into a bit of a tizzy by talking about Sonic the Hedgehog and Wiz
do you know who
Khalifa.
put the machine in a bit of a tizzy? You posting about it for an entire week.
It wasn't.
What was that?
It wasn't a week.
What do you mean it wasn't a week?
3 days. The podcast
I feel like I still see them popping up.
It's true.
Don't lie to me.
Okay, so last week we did our post-April Fool's episode talking about Sonic the Hedgehog by way of that Wiz Khalifa song from the first Sonic movie. And, I'm like, the way we do things on social media is we post the episode about a particular song, and then for the week after, I post all the media we found in that episode. Well, then I just got to post all this Sonic the Hedgehog media, and sure, I changed our avatar on Twitter and Instagram, and you know what? And
Danny, in the words...
I took it down by Sunday night. Instead of Tuesday is when I would stop posting about the previous week's episode.
In the words...
Normally.
Of a very wise listener, you can be a bit much.
The time came when you had to hit the pavement. You grew it like a caveman, never going clean again, venturing out on your own.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sadie Hawkins Pod.
Hello.
We already did this part, but we're doing it again.
Yeah. So, we do have some Sonic Hedgehog Pod wrap-up. We got some Sonic... every week we wrap up last week's episode. Now,
right.
This week, we're not April Fools, and yeah, if you're like, Man of Stone, I never heard of that Relient K song. It's a Matt Thiessen and the Earthquake song. And let's start the discussion there. So,
okay. For
the last year, we've been doing this podcast for like 2.5 years, I think now. Wow. Time.
It was pre-pandemic, for sure.
It was pre-pandemic, yep.
Hey, remember how in the early part of the pandemic, you were like, we're not going to talk about it. I don't want to acknowledge it. And then that just went out the window. At the same time, we realized it was not just going to be like a 2-week thing.
Well, I was like, everyone wants to come to Sadie Hawkins Pod to get away from... all this current events.
Of course.
Where do you go to get your relief from current world events? Why, Sadie Hawkins Pod.
You said Sadie Hawkins Pod, be my escape, and we were like, we are
After
here.
After a while.
Come to us with open arms. I mean,
right.
wait, that's not right.
And then we did our crossover with This Might Be a Podcast, still at the height of that. And we were, unloaded in that episode, especially because we talked about the song For Science, and, that's... peak time when people weren't believing in science.
Right. Right.
We unloaded on Greg's episode there with all our COVID anxiety talk, and then we finally started talking about it on our actual show. But yeah, this week we're talking about a Matt Thiessen and the Earthquake song, because for the last year on social media, and even once or twice here on the podcast, I've been threatening to discuss songs individually from the Wind Up Bird album by Matt Thiessen and the Earthquakes. And some people might question why exactly we're doing that.
The truth is we're just running out of Relient K content. Come on, guys, we need new music.
We got to that is one reason we do want to slow things down, and we're going to get a good... How many songs are in this album? 1 second. I've still got it up here on this thing. And one thing I'm surprised... Let me tell you something about this album before we get into it. 11 songs... coming in at only 35 minutes. That is very surprising for what's kind of like an indie pop, sort of folky album.
Is that not the most indie pop choice of them all?
Well, I don't know. I would think every song would be 4 minutes each. I was definitely expecting it to be 45 minutes. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to do Matt Thiessen and Earthquakes, specifically the Wind Up Bird songs, because here on the podcast, is because there are a couple of other Matt Thiessen and Earthquakes songs that have been released from early on the My Other Band comp, and I don't think we're going to do individual episodes, at least not on the free feed. We're not going to do those. But I don't remember. We did a crossover with Reliable Josh, and I think it was on his podcast.
I love you are the one who has canonized that. It's the Reliable J podcast, and then Josh.
Well, I call him Reliable Josh because I have such a difficult time trying to pronounce his last name, McTarrigan. Even though every time I pronounce it to his face or digitally to his face, he says, "Oh, you got it." Every time we have to say it on this podcast, I'm never sure that I'm saying it correctly. So I just say Reliable Josh.
McTarnigan.
McTarnigan, okay.
Unless the N is silent.
Well, Reliable J, on the Reliable J podcast, when we've had crossovers with Josh, who runs that podcast, there was one, and I don't think you were in it. I don't think you were in this particular crossover. Whether it was, I think it was in his feed and not on our feed. And he talked about how this album, his interpretation of it is that it's about Matt Thiessen's divorce, which we'll get into, and the history of that. We're not going to get into like detail of the history of his divorce, just like we don't get into detail of his breakup that led to Forget Not Slow Down. But there, we got to touch on it because it's relevant. But he said that, and to us at some point when we had a crossover episode, and that got the gears turning in my head, thinking like maybe we got to touch on this album in more specific a way than just the way we do Patreon episodes where we tackle a side project where we listen to the whole album live in the room and give our first impressions. I'm like, there might be important stuff here happening on the Wind Up Bird, Matt Thiessen and Earthquakes album that lyrically is going to fill in some gaps between Air for Free and where we hopefully get when Relient K eventually releases new music. Or crossing our fingers, we don't know anything specific, but eventually Relient K will hopefully be releasing new music, and this Matt Thiessen and Earthquakes album was released in 2018, which is the year after the last they last played in 2017 until the Yeah
live
tour.
Yeah,
they had played in early 2017 in Q1 because I'm an accountant. They played in Q1 of 2017, and then they took their break. Thiessen goes and records this album, and then they probably would have been back in 2020 except for the pandemic.
Yeah, this is definitely not a first reaction kind of album, because I've definitely sort of not necessarily changed my opinion, but just been kind of sitting with it and listening through, and it definitely deserves a number of listen throughs.
And that's part of the reason why I wanted to do it in the format of our regular free episodes and actually hit every song on this album, because there's something here that's a little bit not as easy to, you can't just scratch the surface like we do with our Patreon episodes.
Right.
So I want to really dig into it. And there are some songs over the last 2.5 years with Relient K that I've had, I feel like I have a stronger relationship with. All of Relient K's catalog, I feel like I have a stronger relationship with because we've done this specific project of breaking into every song episode by episode. So I would, and spoiler warning, because we still have more top of the show business, but spoiler warning, I don't have a strong relationship to Wind Up Bird. I've listened to it, but I have never I've never metastasized it. I've never let it seep into me. I don't think about listening to it that often. So I would like to dig into it in a way that will, it could go either way. Hopefully we'll understand something more about this album and maybe catch on to more songs and be interested in it more overall. Or maybe we won't. It happened to me with Collapsible Lung is the thing. And that's a totally opposite side of the coin. But Collapsible Lung, I would never put on before we started this podcast. And now there are songs on Collapsible Lung that I get, stuck in my head out of nowhere. And I'm like, I got to listen to that song. Oh, well, I'm here. I'll listen to that song and that song. And I have more of a relationship with Collapsible Lung because of this podcast. So completely different situation as far as Wind Up Bird and Collapsible Lung. But I'm hoping that maybe we'll get a similar relationship to this album by doing every song in the style of a regular Sadie Hawkins Pod episode.
Yeah, this is the first time I listened to this album all the way through, I think. I feel like I probably started this before, especially when we were oh, let's do a Relient K podcast. I think I started it,
Right.
and then I don't, but I like have no clear memory of listening to like any of this pretty much. So this was definitely like coming to it very fresh this
Right.
week.
And we started this podcast in 2019. We started. Hold on, I can definitely figure that out.
Yeah, I think it was like October, November 2019.
Okay. So we started this. Yeah, I can figure this out really quick. Scroll. Okay. June 2019.
Oh,
we started
sorry.
this podcast.
Sorry, past Danny and Jess.
So at the time, Relient K wasn't doing anything, but Thiessen and the Earthquakes were still playing here and there when we started this podcast, when we were in single-digit episodes. So at the time, I was keeping an eye on Matt Thiessen and the Earthquakes, like song kick, and seeing if they would play in Nashville and if we would actually maybe back in 2019 fly out to Nashville, because we've always wanted to visit Nashville, and we were gonna maybe go see a show. But then Matt Thiessen and the Earthquakes winded down, wind up bird, wind down birded. They wind down did bird, and they didn't seem to be playing anymore. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then the pandemic hit, and then eventually, Relient K was supposed to do they were talking about doing a Forget Not Slow Down 20 or 21 tour, and that didn't happen. And now we got So now I feel like is the time to maybe retroactively, like, there's no specific pressure of Matt Thiessen and Earthquakes are a thing happening right now, and now we can kind of dive into this album. But that's our preliminary setup. This is so out of sorts for us to talk this much about the subject of the episode for the first 10, 12 minutes of the episode. Like, we still have top of the show business.
Take
we still have
that, Apple
opening
iTunes reviewers. I mean, what is it? It's just podcasts. It's not. There's no I in front of that.
Technically, it's just called Apple Podcasts, but that is the first thing that we definitely want to touch on. We have a couple of reviews that we haven't read online, haven't read on the podcast yet.
Ooh.
Well, don't ooh yet. So we have our first official 2-star review, which is perfect because over on patreon.com/Sadie Hawkins Pod, and this was not planned. This is just happening right now. I'm connecting these dots. Over on our Patreon, it was this idea that I had to go through iTunes and look at people who were not happy with the direction of Forget and Not Slow Down at the time. I was hoping to find some negative reviews of Forget and Not Slow Down from like in the last 5 years, but we didn't find them. Basically what we found is 1 and 2-star reviews for Forget and Not Slow Down for the time when the album came out. And they are fascinating, and they are almost all wrong.
Look at you riding that Segway like it's innovations in Epcot in 2005.
And I'm still 280 pounds. What? I'm a big guy. Technically, I can't ride a Segway. Jessica's like, are we editing this out? No, it's true. I can't ride a Segway. I'm too large now. Anyway. Yeah, we had a fun time. I remember that. Jessica and I, when we still lived in Orlando, we went to Epcot one day. And they had a special Segway thing at Epcot Center.
This is not a great segue. I threw that out there as a throwaway.
As a cute little thing, and I just kept,
goodness.
I just kept riding it like a Segway, riding it
not quite, but
badly riding it like a Segway, like I'm Paul Blart.
Oh, jeez.
So anyway, do you want the 2-star review of our podcast, or do you want?
Hell yeah, I do. There's positive ones? I didn't think so.
There's 2 positive ones and there's 1 negative one. So what do you want to start with the negative one?
Heck yeah, I do. That's what I always say. Put your worst foot forward.
Joey, on March 25th, very recent.
Hey,
Joey.
How you doing?
How you doing? Joey and Rachel and Phoebe.
Is this why we got the 2-star review?
Probably. Well, they said while these 2 hosts are nice, thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Their lack of reverence for the Bible and their desire for Relient K to fall in line with woke Christianity instead is pretty dumb. I like how they sugarcoated it.
I'll take it.
They even admit to themselves they wish that certain songs weren't about God.
What?
Well, that's mostly me.
I was gonna say.
Like that's lame or something, when that literally means everything to me. So that's a bit of a roller coaster.
I'm sorry, Joe.
Well, that's
You're
a bit
not
of,
listening anymore,
yeah,
but...
That's a bit of a roller coaster ride.
Josh, tell Joey that we're sorry. I can only assume he's moved over to Reliable J. It's the only other Reliant K podcast. I mean, I don't know who Joey is.
Well, I doubt Joey cares about pronouns if he's upset about woke Christianity.
Joey could be a girl like the lady who looks like she's maybe smoked a little too much that was in the Kevin Smith movies. You know that one.
Oh, Joey Lauren Adams.
Yeah.
Joey is technically a genderless name, you're right.
And the one that your sister looks like or says she looks like in the Dawson's Creek. I never watched it. What is it called?
Oh, was married to
Katie Holmes.
Katie Holmes.
Character's name was Joey, I believe, based on the one episode that I have seen of that show, which was the finale, because my parents were like, Jessica, you're too young to watch this show.
This is a cultural milestone.
Let's watch. This is a cultural milestone. We will watch the finale for some reason. This is going to be as big as the
MASH finale.
We did the same thing with Friends, except then we did watch, like, Friends every now and then, but in syndication.
Jessica, turn off that water cooler.
Oh, sorry.
This is why Joey really gave us a 2-star review. So
Joey was very kind, though, in their
roller
review.
coaster ride of, like saying we're very nice, but we're too woke Christian, and this and that, but then saying like, the Christ-centered message of Relient K songs means everything to them. So I don't know. Look, I'm sorry. First, like, I don't like the idea of calling any version of Christianity woke Christianity, because like, that's Christ was the woke, like,
it
Jewish
should all
person.
be woke.
Yeah, Christ was the woke Jew within what do you call it?
Fucking protect trans
the Roman
kids.
Empire. There you go, Jess. But like, I don't really understand that, and I totally understand. Like, I do, and I have felt bad when I've done this, when I rag against certain songs being about God when I don't see it that way. Or at the very least, I think Thiessen, in a case of like Be My Escape is the biggest one, Thiessen deliberately, as a poet, writes in such a way as to not definitively make this about God or anything else, so that anyone hearing it on the radio or anywhere can make their own decisions. And I just try to leave those things open. And if I have done the opposite, and I have like counteracted anyone's, Christ or faith-based belief in, the messages of Relient K music, I'm sorry. I definitely don't ever want anyone to think that I'm saying these are, well, I have said this once or twice.
We have absolutely been like, this song is 100% about a girl, but...
Yeah, I have done that. But, there are podcasts I've listened to song by song of artists that I like. No one that we know or even tangentially related to, that will be like so definitive about their interpretations that I get a little frustrated. So I get that, and I'm sorry. I don't know what to say, but I think that
I feel like the only times that I really try to be like, guys, this is literally about a girl, is when I'm like, the band has said it.
Right.
I do try to be like, and even when the band has said what it's about, I really strongly feel that you should take whatever message away you take.
I do
and
believe
that's
in
what
death of the
matters.
author, yeah.
That's what matters, is what you take away from that.
Yeah.
Like, and I think we talked about it a little bit last week, maybe not last week, maybe the week before last.
During the Sonic podcast.
About especially like taking away, and reading certain things, especially with Forget Not Slow Down, and taking, like, going through that trauma as just processing whatever trauma you're going through, and not even necessarily of a breakup, because I know I've had little things here and there, especially recently, pop up where, like, I've really connected with Forget Not Slow Down in just putting my own interpretation and feelings in getting through what I'm going through into the lyrics, especially the titular song. You can really just apply these songs to anything, and I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, that came up a lot in the Patreon episode I mentioned before that Jessica was just talking about, is that there were people who were mad that there wasn't enough Christ in Forget Not Slow Down. And I think there's a ton of Christ in Forget Not Slow Down, but like, and this is not woke Christianity at all. I think there comes a point in a lot of people's lives, and I don't think Relient K is ever a band that you can say has deconstructed anything. You know what I mean? Like, as far as the deconstruction movement, I don't think Relient K is specifically a part of that. But to write an album like Forget Not Slow Down, or even Collapsible Lung or Air for Free, that's not like really pushing messages of Christ or ministry in your face, but still saying, here is the life, here is my life and my struggle. And you kind of know that, especially through Air for Free, and how he still talks about how he's definitely still believes in God, and maybe it is or isn't our business about what that means. You still understand, especially in 2009 with Forget Not Slow Down. That's the lens in which that is one of the lenses in which he's still dealing with his breakup in 2009 at that time. So whether or not he is, expressly quoting Bible verses or anything in the songs is not relevant. Forget Not Slow Down is a breakup album, and he had faith then, or maybe he was struggling with it, and that's what it's about. And, I just found it so obnoxious in our Patreon episode when people would say, why does every song on this album have to be about chicks? Like, that's not what it's about. It's about a heartbreaking situation he had in which he didn't know what this meant for him, and he felt alone and abandoned, and he was reaching out for something, and he still had his faith, and he had his thoughts and his feelings, and he worked through it through his art. And, and he has faith, as he continued to talk about through a ton of other songs and albums. So it's like, just because you're not specifically mentioning Jesus in every song doesn't mean that Christ isn't there with you. Just because, as the Supertones said, even in the dentist chair, it matters. That doesn't mean you're crying out to Christ when you're getting your tonsils, your fillings done. Anyway, we have 2 positive reviews. Okay. You want me to read these? 5 stars.
Sure.
Says North Central Florida Andrew. Great podcast for all Relient K fans. Danny and Jess do a great job of bringing back all your old memories of the band and are helping push them into the future. Ooh, I like that.
Thank you,
That's
North
some real
Central
Epcot Center stuff right there.
Andrew, yeah.
Yeah. And then, I like how I have less to say about that. But thank you very much. And then S.C. Bain, maybe like Southern Carolina Bain. Yes, Batman, here we are. And so I can't do a Bain voice. I'll work on that. S.C. Bain says, great podcast.
Southern Carolina. I like that you went there when we live in Southern California and not South Carolina. Amazing.
Well,
your sister lives there, so.
Family who lives in South Carolina, so that's why I thought that.
Even though you always think it's North Carolina, but yes.
I actually got it right this time, and you had to rub it in my face, so I can't figure out those Carolinas.
Sorry.
I know one of them has barbecue sauce that's got more sweet in it than other states. Great podcast, says S.C. Bain, for those of us who love Relient K and feel like we grew up with them. I can't imagine my life without Relient K, and this podcast is making me fall in love with them all over again. Gets me in touch with 8-year-old me. I don't want to know when S.C. Bain was born. Who fell in love with Relient K and never looked back. All while better understanding 28-year-old me. Okay, I could do the math, but I won't. It's... No, I'm not going to...
Danny, it's fine. Keep going. Thank you, S.C. Bain. Ignore him.
All while better understanding 28-year-old me, who's far more collapsible lung than anatomy of tongue-in-cheek. Really wishing I was Air for Free every step of the way. Thanks for making this.
I love that.
That's great.
I get all those references. I'm the little Captain America gif meme.
Yeah, collapsible lung. I get that reference. Air for Free.
All of them. Whatever. Thank you. I get nervous and shy at the positive ones. Like, Danny, you could just read the negative ones. I know how to react to those.
So we do have some voicemails.
Oh my gosh, I thought you were going to say, so going over to another platform.
So here's David Park calling up to talk about our Sonic Hedgehog pod.
David Park of Parks podcast.
Yep.
Danny, it's David from Jimmy Eat Pod. I am addressing this directly to Danny because, just like Danny, I too am an insane Sonic the Hedgehog head. However, my fandom sort of died out after Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles. But I did want to take umbrage. I was taking umbrage with all the things you were taking umbrage with. However, I take umbrage with you saying that the Genesis cartridges did not have to be blown out. Yes, I would say 9 out of 10 times that was true. However, you would know, I didn't finish the episode, so maybe you get into this. You would know that you could plug certain games into Sonic and Knuckles to get extra games. So you could plug Sonic 2 into Sonic and Knuckles and be able to play as Knuckles in Sonic 2 levels. And every now and again, that wouldn't work perfectly. You would have to blow out the cartridge you were plugging into the Sonic and Knuckles cartridge. So, and let's see, you could plug Sonic 2 into it, Sonic 3 for sure, and you could plug Sonic Spinball, I believe, into Sonic and Knuckles, and I think you could plug a couple other random ones in, but some of them just didn't work, and it just played, I forget, what did it do? Danny, you'd have to tell me. Did it play Sonic and Knuckles if it didn't have any extra stuff, or did it play the game that was plugged into Sonic and Knuckles? Anyway, thoughts to think about, but every now and again you did have to blow into the cartridge that you were plugging into Sonic and Knuckles because it didn't always work. But maybe it was only my Sonic and Knuckles. Anyway, alright, bye.
Oh no. That's it. Apparently we have beef with Jimmy Eat Pod now.
So he's correct for the okay.
For the most part, was that? Are you going to finish that statement?
There was so Sonic and Knuckles had a lock on. They called it lock on.
I just want to say you're dansplaining to like everyone right now.
Well, we have a lot of young listeners, and they probably haven't played Sega games. They're probably more of the new generation of Sonic fans that I talked about last week. So Sonic and Knuckles for the Sega Genesis had a lock-on technology where you could put a cartridge on you could put the cartridge directly in the Genesis and play Sonic and Knuckles, or you could put a cartridge on top of that cartridge and play the game on the top of the cartridge with Knuckles.
That's cool. I mean, I didn't know that. I had Sonic and Sonic 2 that came with my Sega Genesis, as mentioned last week. And I had like Aladdin and whatever the Mickey Mouse like one was with the magic carpet. I had that one.
Mickey and the magic carpet. I don't know.
I don't remember what it was
Mickey
called.
Mickey and the something of illusion, Castle of Illusions.
Yeah, that sounds about right. The music was great in that. It was a very difficult game though. Couldn't get very far in that one. And I had that shitty Home Alone game. And the Toy Story one as well. I had a bunch. I don't know. California Games was like my favorite.
Okay. Well, the Sonic and Knuckles cart, I believe, would only play Sonic 2, and you could play as Knuckles in Sonic 2.
Is it like with a Game Genie?
No,
you did this? No?
Sort of. The Sonic and Knuckles cartridge was a game in and of itself.
Right.
But it had a thing on the top, like a Game Genie, that you could put another cart on top of it.
Interesting.
And you could play Sonic 2 if you put Sonic 2 on top of Sonic and Knuckles. And you could play Sonic and Knuckles you could play Sonic 2 as Knuckles. You could do the same thing for Sonic 3. But I'm pretty sure that's where it ended. I think if you put Sonic Spinball, as David was mentioning, or Sonic 1 or anything else, what you would get was this weird like error message of Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Robotnik going, you did like Nedry from Jurassic Park going, can't do that. But then if you press the start button, what you'd get is 1,000 special stages. You'd get a collection of 1,000 special stages from Sonic 3. You know that one that makes you sick where you're going around the globe and you're turning over the blue bulbs?
Yeah.
If you put any other Genesis game other than Sonic 2 and Sonic 3, you would get an endless run or 1,000 stages of the special stage.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So Jessica, what'd you think of Sonic 2, the movie?
It was cute. cute. I actually was pleasantly surprised because I went in with no expectations and was like, oh, this is cute. This is fun. Can I say Jim Carrey, weakest part of the movie? Just throwing that out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, thought he had a lot of bad lines, kind of rolled my eyes and was like, oh, of course, to most of the things he was saying. Loved everyone else. Oh, that was bad.
He made a joke about Limp Bizkit, and I'm like,
rough.
Now there was a Trump line which was absolutely spot on, where towards the end he's about to get defeated and he's like, look, I did some things, you did some things, there's good people on both sides. That was like the best Robotnik joke in the whole movie. And then, of course, some people were upset about it. Someone on Looper.com wrote a think piece that crossed the line.
Good Lord.
I'm like, okay, Looper, thanks very much. I was waiting for them to tweet it so I could reply from some account and say, like, please fire this person. But they never tweeted that headline, so...
No, because a lot of those just, like, hire out. Take, yeah, and it's, like, all opinion pieces.
That one was spot on, though, to do the Trump reference right there through Robotnik. I loved it. But, okay, yeah, I liked Robotnik. I liked... Trump as Robotnik.
Look, there were a great amount of game references, and none too douchey. The only time was when they like showed off the like what the old school manuals looked like, and they had only just done like a Sega reference, not a Sega reference, a Genesis reference, not too
the
far
big
before that. And I was
instruction
like,
manual, and it looked like a Sega instruction manual.
But other than that, I loved it. I thought it was cute. Most of them were really
It was
subtle.
everything the first game should have been. If,
movie.
like I said, sorry, yes, it's everything the first movie should have been. If, like I said last week, Paramount hadn't done their market research and decided to market it to 40-year-old neckbeards like me who remember Limp Bizkit. Who remember Limp Bizkit. They realize that
that's one of those, they think that we're like the parents in the audience, and that crushes my soul.
Paramount, in between movies, realized there are children now who know Sonic not as the Genesis games. Like one of Matt Hoop's kids, who apparently loved the memes I posted. And this is the other big news, because Laura Hoops commented on... Now you're like, a whole week of Sonic posts on our social media? Hey, guess what? The Relient K official account finally followed us because of Sonic Week. Thank you very much. Go fuck yourself.
Not earning any points with John Schnack, but the official Relient K
John
account,
Schnack twice
here for it.
Had to say, I don't get what's going on this week. John Schnack twice was like, I don't understand what's happening.
Liam, if you're still listening, tell your dad to get on board.
But Laura Hoops commented and was like, one of our kids is loving these memes. And I'm like, cool. And then the Relient K official account followed us. And maybe they've already unfollowed us. I don't know. But for that moment, I was like, perfect. Sonic Week has paid off.
I mean, as soon as this episode comes out, if they weren't unfollowed before, they are now.
If anyone out there thinks Sonic Week was a waste of time, you're definitively wrong. The Relient K account, run by Hoops, followed us because of Sonic Week. So please take it outside.
Speaking of bad reviews, we are at a very lengthy top of the show business.
No, but we started with all that actual...
Okay, fair. Now, if we do a little math, you're the accountant in the family. I feel like we're still running long on top of the show business, so why don't you go ahead and get to a couple of voicemails. Maybe start with like the soonest and then go backwards just a little bit. You played David Park of Parks.
So here we have... Daniel's calling for the first time in a long time, so we'll do this voicemail and then we'll get into Man of Stone from Wind Up Bird by Matt Thiessen and Earthquake. So here is the voicemail from Daniel calling for the first time in a while.
Hey, it's Daniel. I haven't called in a while, so this is going to be kind of some disjointed stuff.
Sorry, who is this again?
It got cut off. Apparently, I guess, when it beeped, it's Daniel. It's me.
Who? Oh, okay.
No, it's Daniel. You can see my socks. Daniel Moraine.
Oh, right. That guy.
Jessica. Appreciate it, Daniel. Thank you for calling back.
And I have I'm pretty much caught up on everything except for the newest Patreon. So if I mentioned something in there that you already covered, oh well. But yeah, I was wondering what you guys thought of the intro to Relient K set with like all the little movie quotes, like that ends with "Hold on to your butts" right before they kicked into "Play I'm Hate to Have Been." I definitely did not pick up every single movie reference because I've not seen actually that many movies. So kind of wondering what you guys thought, because I know you guys are more movie buffs. I have a note here, something about Curb Your Enthusiasm. I think you were talking about the C-Spot Rock DVD and like where that style of videography kind of came from, or like the humor in it. I do seem to remember like reading some interview with them, with Relient K back in the day, and like somebody asked what their favorite TV shows were, and Curb Your Enthusiasm was one of them. I don't know why that stood out to me, because I had no idea what Curb Your Enthusiasm was at all. I think I had just no concept of the show. I think I just thought the name was really funny. I had no idea what it was about. I still have never seen an episode, to be honest. But
I've never seen an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm to this day myself, but I did see it being filmed in Westwood.
Yeah.
One time during COVID. So when I told Jessica this story later that day, she was so mad because Jessica's always been
We
very
weren't supposed to be
safety-minded.
having productions going on then, so
Westwood is...
we were in a huge outbreak. What are you doing?
So I don't mean to be LA guy and talking about local geography, but Westwood is where UCLA, the school, and the hospital are both located, and that happens to be our hospital from our healthcare. So we go to Westwood, and I drop Jessica off because parking's so expensive there. So I go for an appointment. So we always like drive each other to each other's appointments.
Yes, a lot of our doctors are located there.
So we drop each other off, and then we sit and park until we get a text and say, "Come pick me up." So I drop Jessica off at the hospital to just go see a regular doctor's appointment, and I go to find a parking spot to park, and I'm like, I look to my left a couple blocks away, and I'm like, oh, there's Larry David, and they're filming Curb Your Enthusiasm right now. And it's some sort of like traffic accident scene where he's like yelling at someone else he's had a traffic accident with because they're down an alley. And I'm like, huh, cool. And then I didn't, this is full-on mask. Vaccine doesn't even exist yet. COVID time. So when I tell Jessica this later, she's like, they shouldn't be filming this. Nobody needs Curb Your Enthusiasm. Oh, yeah, I took her back by.
We drove back by again, and everyone was crowded together. And I'm like, this is why LA's numbers are so high right now, because people are like, still going and doing production. It sounds stupid now because you're all like, oh, it's not that bad now. But like, think 2020, full-blown heat of pandemic, production is allegedly supposed to be halted. Nope. Apparently people needed more Curb Your Enthusiasm. HBO needed more Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Well, maybe Relient K needed more Curb Your Enthusiasm because apparently they consider it one of their favorite TV shows.
Too dry for my taste. I know I'm married to Danny, but still.
Yeah, kind of random. Something about Sank It's Real. I think the song that they play, like, in the Sank It's Real montage, it's called Loud and Clear, and it's their only good song. It's a great song. It's a banger. It was on the compilation CD that came with Anatomy of the Tongue-in-Cheek when I bought it back in 2002. Always have loved that song and always kind of wanted to get into Sank It's Real, but yeah, the rest of their music is just not as good. Even on that album, just doesn't hold up. And everything else after that, I think, was just, they shifted to being like a praise band, so whatever. Danny said something about creeping death being something about like not having enough time on your hand, like death is creeping towards you. Creeping death is a biblical story. That is about the plagues in Egypt that Moses brings down upon the Pharaoh.
How would I know that? I'm
spreading some knowledge.
I don't read the Bible. I'm not a Christian. I don't think Relient K songs are Christian.
Oh no, he's kidding. Oh no. We have never claimed to be theologians. Or
podcasters.
I'm a little concerned currently that Danny is supposed to be the spiritual leader and spiritual podcaster of this household. I mean, leader. Podcast leader.
I'm the financial leader of this house. I'm the spiritual leader.
See,
and I'm
how unwoke is that? He's the man. He's bringing home the bacon.
I'm bringing home the RSS feeds. I'm bringing home the Podbean memberships.
Creeping Death is being the that song is about. Metallica wrote that after watching the Ten Commandments, the old one with Charlton Heston. So between that and the Four Horsemen, I think they're actually a Christian band. It's all biblically based. And then lastly, put some respect on Billy Boyd's name. He plays Pippin in The Lord of the Rings. And
cut off just with
that's
like 2
right.
words to go.
It's funny because I thought about the Billy Boyd thing after I had said it because I named my dog, who we got when I was when I had just become a senior in high school, Pippin. I named him after that character, which is really funny. And I'm like, wait, there's a reason why this sounds so familiar. That was why.
And Pippin was April's first boyfriend.
Yeah. He was
and
a good little
away.
guy.
He was
we lost him back in 2020, but he's a good boy.
Yeah. But thanks for bringing that up, Daniel. Just kidding. But yeah, I always think, when I was on Magnified Pod and on their finale for their skate punk season for the last
they are way better theologians.
Oh, definitely. But I mean, absolutely.
We don't even come close. Go read that one iTunes review. They'll tell you.
But when I was on their last Hangnail album episode, Facing Changes, I think is that the third one? Whatever. And I did the, is this a Christian band or a metal band quiz, the same quiz I gave you. Mm-hmm. Part of the reason I did that is because me getting into metal finally in 2020 was there's so much biblical stuff in metal overall. And yeah, Slayer is definitively anti-Christian, even though there's a Catholic in the band, but that's a different thing. So many other Christian bands, so many other metal bands use Christian sort of themes and mythology, and I'm like, that's the bare minimum of Christian rock, is just mentioning Bible stories in a non-anti way. So why is this band not Christian? Technically, they're not actually born again or evangelical or Protestant or whatever, so they're not a Christian band. But Metallica has a bunch of songs that are based on Christian ideas, even though they are not a Christian band.
Look, you only had so many books to go off of before the internet existed.
And the Bible was the best-selling one of all.
Exactly. By the way, that reminds me, I saw a
You're so animated right now. Your hands are going like crazy.
I saw a window decal in the back of a car for Creator Creation with a K. And I thought back to that, and I was like, I'm pretty sure this one was not secular. Oh, no, was secular.
No, this one was secular.
Which one? Yeah. Secular.
They have
It was the We're Okay with the Devil one, yeah.
Yeah, the one that's okay with the devil.
Yeah. Not that all secular bands are okay with the devil.
Creator.
Wait. Now I've got to pedal back here.
No. Let me tell you about the dangers of Christian rock. And I don't mean the podcast dangers of Christian rock. I mean the infamous internet article about the dangers of Christian rock. Maybe we should do that as a Patreon episode.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, what are you talking about?
I don't know if it's GeoCities or Tricycle or whatever. It's one of those free website posting things.
We have a listener Tricycle.
We do, not Tricycle. So Tripod. There's one of those free website posting things or blogs where it's the dangers of Christian rock and how all Christian rock is not actually Christian.
Whoa, what a take.
And it gets very specific into how POD is actually mystical and completely all the icons in their artwork is trying to deceive your children. But then I'm sure it gets even deeper. We should probably do that.
That is fantastic. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that? Just kidding. You know what we really need to talk about before we do any more voicemails?
We'll have to save them for next time. We'll do them next time.
We need to get into Man of Stone. I almost said Heart of Stone. Man of Stone.
So let's get into it. We had a little reset there, and let's get in. Little edit that you didn't even notice, and now we're getting into
Why are you pointing it out then? Damn it, Danny.
Man of Stone by Matt Thiessen and Earthquake. So let me tell you off the bat why I picked this months ago. I put out a tweet, and I said, hey, everyone, we are thinking about doing Thiessen and Earthquake songs as individual episodes. What do you think we should do to kick it off? And I did not actually consider any of those answers in the ultimate decision to do this episode, but I'll tell you why I picked this episode. So let me see. Okay, so back in July of 2021, I said we want to start doing Thiessen and Earthquake songs episodes soon. What's the first wind-up bird song we should do?
So soon that
and
you
Robert,
did that.
I know it's been like over half a year. So Robert Gay, who we definitely are going to have on in a future episode when we do wind-up bird songs, because he's on this album. He's the trumpet player.
We've only had Dermike on. We've never had Robert Gay on before.
Well,
so.
Robert Gay technically appeared after, because Robert Gay and Dermike were roommates.
They're buddies. They're roommates. Exactly.
During the pandemic.
Yeah.
Dermike needed a place to stay, so he played with Robert Gay. Yeah. So if you go listen to our Seen and Heard episode.
See, I wasn't there for that.
Yeah.
So I just know that Dermike was there, but I didn't know that his roommate popped in at some point.
So Jim Ivins said Man of Stone all the way. So that's the one we ended up picking. A couple other people who don't interact with us all the time, like Paul Lee said Forest. Lucy Brenham said Oedipus, who does interact with us. Eric Townsend, who of course interacts with us, patron, also said Oedipus. Angry Tortilla said Mother's Triumph. And I ultimately picked Man of Stone for two reasons. One, it was the single off of the album, which I actually didn't know when I first thought, let me do this. I figured that out. Let's pick this song. I found out a couple seconds later, oh, this was the single, perfect. But I picked this. It's the second song on the album. When we started this podcast, we did our first 7 or 8 episodes by doing the first tracks off every album. So you'd think we would do the song Dude. But the song Dude's kind of weird as an opening track. It sets a tone for the album overall, which I think, as much as I understand the album, it's kind of weird, it's kind of ethereal, it's kind of abstract with, possibly these tones of Thiessen's divorce at the time. But the song Dude with like turn it up for the boys, like that thing is just kind of weird. It's not exactly Relient K. Then I listened to Man of Stone, the second song, and I'm like, Man of Stone, as far as like me trying to pick a song that we would do this week, sounds the most like a Relient K song, at least at first glance, first listen. So I'm like, we're not going to get too deep into the Wind Up Bird differences between Relient K. Like, you could take Man of Stone and put it on air for free, or maybe even Collapsible Lung, maybe even Forget Not Slow Down, and you wouldn't think it's too out of there. You'd think it's just a standout, different style track from the rest of the album.
There's a couple songs on this album that I think would like mesh well with Air for Free. But just here and there, not the full album of just this. And right. I'm sort of afraid that when Relient K comes back, they had mentioned, now I'm hoping that this is just going to be like when they said after Forget Not Slow Down that they would like to do another rock album and then did Collapsible Lung. I'm hoping this is like that, where they if they do happen to do a Air for Free Part 2, it doesn't sound completely like this. Right. There's just a little bit of a... I enjoyed this album, but it's almost like I can forgive it for because it's not Relient K.
Right.
It's Matt Thiessen having the sense to be like, okay, this isn't Relient K, and let me make a separate album of my like Nashville scene hipstery stuff.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is like an indie pop, sort of country inspired alt country. It's hard for me to really peg down
like
exactly
you said,
the genre.
You
and
could
I would
put
like
some
to
of
hear
these songs
voicemails.
on Air for Free. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you don't want a full album. I'm sure some people do. Personally, I'm like, it's a little too...
You know what? Maybe, let me say this, and maybe this will help you figure out what you want to say without offending anyone. So when I would listen to this album, I would be challenged because there's like a lack of precise kind of catchiness that I'm used to with Relient K. And it might be because I'm not used to this kind of music. You know what I mean? I had leanings towards indie pop in college that I've talked about. Like, I started to try to, like...
Yeah, we all know Regina Spektor is the future Mrs. Leary, okay?
I tried to expand my musical palette in college outside of punk and ska music by listening to, like, you know, different kinds of, like, mature music. And I was listening to a lot of, like, female-led indie pop. I was listening to, like, Azure Ray and, you know, the two solo artists, the solo projects out of Azure Ray, and I was listening to, like, Regina Spektor, and I'm missing some other stuff. But then I would, like, listen to also, like, the Decemberists and, like, the Postal Service. Like I was trying to, like, try to figure out this other, like, mature version of Danny. And ultimately I realized, no, I just like punk and ska music. So now, retroactively...
Fair.
Matt Thiessen, who's like, you know, Relient K is a core part of my musical DNA, he releases this album. And I'm like, well, I have some basis for listening to this kind of music, but I never really was able to fully embrace this kind of music. So when I would listen to Wind Up Bird, it would kind of go in one ear and out the other because the kind of catchiness, the kind of melodies, and the kind of style that it represented would not jibe with my like neurons. It just wouldn't like connect with me properly. And the one thing I can like compare it to is like my relationship to jazz. Like, I really love jazz now, but back in the day when I was just a little punk emo ska dirtbag, I couldn't get jazz, right? And I remember I worked at Barnes and Noble. And one time I went in the back room and there was a guy who was listening to some, like, I don't know what he was listening to now, but if he was listening to some, like, Duke Ellington or something, he was singing along to the melody of the horn lines in this jazz song. And it blew my mind because I was like, how do you listen to jazz, which felt totally random and completely outside of my neurological understanding of music, and like actually memorize the melodies of this jazz music? And I just realized like my brain just wasn't programmed to that. But now my brain is more programmed to understand and enjoy jazz music. My brain is not programmed to understand and enjoy this style of earthy indie pop. So when I listen to Wind Up Bird, with the exception of Forest, which totally just buried itself into like, when I think of Wind Up Bird, I mainly think of Little John and...
I was going to say, is like that the Robin Hood one?
Yeah, Little John and Robin Hood. Like, I can't get that melody out of my head, but the rest of it, unfortunately, kind of goes in one ear and out the other. But I'm like, if I listen to this album over and over and over, like it took me for jazz, maybe I would start to understand it better. You know, and like, I also like recently... What was that? That there's a Beatles YouTube guy that I started watching just recently, and he did a whole video about how amazing Paul McCartney and Linda McCartney's album Ram is, and how it actually kind of started the indie pop genre overall. And I started listening to that a couple months ago because of that. And I'm like, oh, interesting. I'm going to listen to this. And I would listen to that album and I'd be like, oh, this album is really amazing. And then I would stop listening to the album and then like, I don't remember a single song from that album, but I know it was good. I just couldn't tell you a single melody from that album. And unfortunately, that's the way I feel about Wind Up Bird. And I'm hoping by the time we've done more songs from this album that I'll feel a little different. But yeah, for you, maybe is it like just this type of style of music? I'm speaking for you. Tell me if I'm totally wrong. The style of music, there's something disconnected to your brain.
Yeah,
like it is for me.
Yeah, I like Beeba Doobie and Indie, but I'm not feeling this quite as much. And that was pre Cup of Coffee for Your Head. We're not talking about Mark Hoppus remix or whatever that was. I was before then, long before then. But yeah, I do feel a little bit disconnected to this, and I definitely want to listen to it more because I'm like, I don't know if it's just, you know, a singer's voice has a lot to do with whether like I'm into a song or a band or not. And, you know, part of my issue with Collapsible Lung was just that even though Thiessen could hit those notes and did really well at hitting those notes, I just didn't love it. Like, I just didn't love the sound of it. And so I don't know if these songs were instead sung by a lady with like a sultry voice, with the exception of Beeba Doobie, is
Lana Del Rey, get out there and cover Man of Stone by Matt Thiessen and the Earthquakes.
I would usually listen to like an indie song with more of a sultry lady singing it. If that would be like sort of different and would connect more with my brain, I'm not really sure. But yeah, I kind of, as I was listening to it, I was like, all of these songs kind of sound like Rocky Raccoon to me. Just throwing it back to the Beatles for a second.
Connects back to the Ram, Paul McCartney, Linda McCartney album.
But yeah, and I feel like there's definitely more going on with the lyrics, and we'll definitely dive into that. But I didn't connect with this in a way that where it was like, oh, there's sort of more interesting things happening here with other things that I had heard were supposed to be Matt Thiessen and the Earthquake projects in the past.
Right.
It was like everything leading up to this, that it was like, oh, that was supposed to be Thiessen and the Earthquakes. I could connect more to those songs than I can to this, even like Faking My Own Suicide.
Right.
Something about this album, I just didn't quite, and I think it's probably just when the album came out, you know, like what Matt Thiessen was into, what, you know, was more popular, what he was more into at the time, and, you know, who he was influenced by. And yeah, I think it was just like, I just don't connect quite as much with that, whereas I'm like, I would like be so interested to see what Matt Thiessen and the Earthquakes would look like if he had put out like even just an EP.
Put out an album between Two Lefts and
Not even that, just like, I mean, yes, yeah, exactly, Two Lefts actually, you're right, because like back when I followed quote unquote Matt Thiessen and the Earthquakes, which was just Thiessen, back on MySpace.
Right.
Because that was like, you could follow all the members, but like Thiessen was the one who like had his side project as his main MySpace. So I'm like, I would love to know what that version of the band would look like.
What
like
full length
Thiessen
and Earthquakes album would have looked like in 2003-4.
Yeah. Because you know that it's going to be so different than what you're getting here. Because you're getting a very, like, what year did this come out again?
2018.
2018. You're getting a very 2018 view version of that, which is so different than what you would have gotten earlier.
Like how Relient K has changed with every album. Which is, you know, also what I was thinking about when you were saying, like, what Relient K's next album may be like. Is it going to be Air for Free Part 2? Personally, I don't think that's going to happen. Because if you look at the history of Relient K, the only albums that sound even remotely similar are 2 and 3, are Anatomy and Two Lefts. Like, they're the only ones that have, to me personally, especially as we've deep dived, they're the only ones that sonically feel the same. But Two Lefts to Giant Leap, to 5 Score, Giant Leap, 5 Score to even Burden the B-Sides and Forget Not Slow Down, completely different. Forget Not Slow Down to Collapsible Lung, completely different. And Collapsible Lung to Air for Free, even comparing Forget Not Slow Down to Air for Free, totally different. So, if Matt Thiessen and the Earthquakes had actually been an active project releasing albums maybe every 5 years, 6 years, like, I'm sure we would have had very different albums. But instead, we do get this kind of 2018 version of a sort of Nashville, you know, the Nashville Thiessen, I guess.
Yeah. But does that not sort of, and I don't I'm not trying to be a downer here. I'm as
I understand.
as
We got
Danny
a
would
lot of
say,
songs left on this
I'm
album, so-
playing devil's advocate. If you sort of look at everything after the first 3 years, it's all of the albums from till present sort of mesh into what was somewhat popular at the time. What is the sound of now? I honestly don't know. I am asking you, what is the sound of
Olivia
now?
Rodrigo.
I don't know what Olivia Rodrigo is.
She sounds like Paramore.
Okay, so great. Are we getting part 2? I don't know. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm excited but scared. Like, are we going to get sort of a throwback sound now that you have sort of, your older members back, as far as we know, in the band? You've got Dave, John, and Ethan. Are you going to give us a sound more like what you would? Are they involved in an album? We don't know. We don't know if there's new songs or not.
We're not here to talk about Relient K. We're here to talk. I'm just kidding.
Oh, sorry, you're right.
Yeah, so, Matt Thiessen and Earthquakes, I also wanted to talk about the history of the band as far as it's understood. And now I'm realizing, if we ever got Thiessen on the podcast, which who knows if that would ever happen, but if we ever got Thiessen on the podcast...
If this is the only episode he ever chooses to listen to, it's not happening. Like,
well,
good Lord, let's hope it's not.
The main thing I want to talk to him about is Thiessen and the Earthquakes, because I find it so fascinating.
He will, then.
From, all we know about is all that's 100% confirmed is I Hate Christmas Parties and Faking My Own Suicide were Thiessen and the Earthquakes songs. Now, I, in an apocryphal way, claim on this podcast that I was told by Relient K at Soulfest in New Hampshire that the Jefferson Airplane demo was a Thiessen and the Earthquakes demo, and then it just got pushed up to Relient K. So what I find fascinating about Thiessen and the Earthquakes, and what I kind of sussed out, and this is just my personal interpretation or understanding, is that Thiessen and the Earthquakes was just like when Relient K isn't together and Thiessen is working on stuff all by himself, or just him and Mark Lee Townsend at the most. That's Thiessen and the Earthquakes. And Thiessen and the Earthquakes could sort of farm club or minor league material for Relient K at any point, but that whenever he had downtime, he would just kind of keep plucking away at this Thiessen and the Earthquakes project. But then Relient K kept growing and snowballing and taking more and more time. And then Brian leaves the band. The Earthquakes were around when Brian was in the band, definitively, for sure, without question. The Earthquakes was a name that was created when Brian was still in the band. And then, he leaves, the Johns join, and the band just keeps growing and growing and growing. And so the Earthquakes just there's no time for it. I would love to know what other songs we missed out on, or what other songs possibly, I just claim from this one thing I was told, at a festival one time, that for Jefferson Airplane was an Earthquake song. What other Relient K songs were possibly started as Earthquake songs and kind of graduated up from the minor leagues to the major leagues? And then finally, Relient K is just on this constant trajectory for years and years and years, and Air for Free is done, and the Switchfoot tour is done, and they're all older, and and the Johns, and Ethan and everyone have left the band, and they're now in this short-lived sort of duo era, and they're like, we can rest, we can take 2 years, we don't know COVID's gonna happen, but we can take 2 years. Hoops is gonna focus on his family in 1981, and Thiessen is gonna focus on the Earthquakes, and he's divorced now. And we actually had to talk about that as well. But he's divorced now, so Thiessen's going to focus on himself and the Earthquakes. And we're going to take 2 years off, and we're going to do our own thing. Finally, rest. Oops, COVID hit. Everyone just kind of go underground, do your thing, and now everyone's going to think that Relient K broke up. But that's so if we finally get an Earthquakes album, and it's totally different than maybe we would have got if Relient K hadn't grown as much as it had over those years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've also kind of always seen it as that, but also as, and I don't know if this is because I've read it in just all of my deep dives or where it's come from, but that Thiessen and the Earthquakes material is material that just did not fit in with Relient K. That Thiessen was like, I don't know. I've written this song, but I don't know that it fits in with Relient K, so I'm going to shelve it over here with this Earthquakes project.
Right.
And I don't know if I am completely just assuming that, making it up, or if I did read into something, or what it was.
You know what? Keep.
No, that's it. I'm just saying, like, I don't know if I read that river. And then, like, as you said, Relient K kept growing, and it was like he was able to rework some of these songs or just put them as Relient K songs. He's like, you know what? On second thought, they're not as off base as I thought.
Right.
From Relient K. Whereas you have songs like this where, as we said, it is a full album of, and I think you agreed with this as well, not to speak for you, but that it's
Please
sort of an album.
I'm always speaking for you.
You are. It's a full album of songs where you're like, yeah, maybe one or two of these I could see like popping up somewhere on air for free or an earlier album, but not all of it as one album.
Right.
You know, so it's like if you just sort of took all of those songs where like, I can't really see where this fits in, and let's just put it all on this one album, and I can perform it just on my own because it's not a Relient K song.
Right.
And I didn't write it to be a Relient K song necessarily. Maybe it started that way, but I decided as it was going, even if that's before it hits the page, even if just in the conception of it, he's like, okay, so I'm writing this song. And then, you know, maybe his first draft is technically his second because his first draft is like in his head. And his second is when it comes out on paper. And he went, you know what, by now, I don't think this is going to be a Relient K song. So let me just keep it for Earthquakes.
Right. And I think Relient K as a concept kept stretching throughout the years, especially after like, because there is some consistency between and the first three albums. But then after that, what could constitute a Relient K song kept stretching. So maybe he was knocking some Earthquake songs up to Relient K. And, you know, let's just say a song like Baby from, not the cover, not the Justin Bieber cover, but the outro to Savannah. A song like Baby, if you showed that to someone in a time machine, a Relient K fan, and took it to 2004, 2003, and you're like, this is a Relient K song, you'd be like, what? This is not a Relient K song. You'd be like, what the hell is this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it is a Relient K song in the construct of how they grew. It's like a child. Like, you look at a child, and you're like, this child, it's grown so much, but you don't even notice. But then you look at pictures, and you're like, oh my gosh, this kid's grown so much. You know what I mean? Something like that. But,
P.S.
Yeah.
Protect trans kids.
That's right.
Danny can use this as his platform to spread his Sonic nonsense.
You can use this to spread your woke Christianity.
To spread goodness is what I was going to say.
Jesus would protect trans kids.
Absolutely. Because, you know, it's funny. There's a little band. We talk about them every week. And what did they say? They said, Jesus loves the outcasts. He loves the ones the world just loves to hate.
That's so funny. What a coincidence.
What a fucking coincidence.
Yeah, protect trans kids. So, should we take a break?
We should.
And then we'll come back and we'll read the lyrics of this actual song.
That's right. And then we have deep dive and YouTube
we do
stuff.
have one cover and a couple of live versions, so we will listen to those as well. We just want to take a moment to thank you for listening to Sadie Hawkins Pod. Whether you've been listening for a while or this is your first time, we want to hear your thoughts on this episode, your corrections, and your Relient K memories at our voicemail line, which is 402-95-SADIE.
And if talking on the phone isn't your thing, because I know it's not mine, and whose is it really, you can send us an email to sadiehawkinspod@gmail.com or visit our socials at Instagram and Twitter, which are both at Sadie Hawkins Pod. While there, you can also see the visuals we discuss on the podcast each week.
You can also visit sadiehawkinspod.com for easy access to all these links, as well as to our merch store for shirts, mugs, stickers, and more.
We also want to thank our patrons at patreon.com/sadiehawkinspod, who include Isaac, James, Kendall, Josh A., Timothy, Daniel, Jay, Eric, Joel, Connor, Michael, Samantha, Jimmy Eat Pod, This Might Be a Podcast, Tucker, and Brady.
Join our Patreon now for 2 monthly bonus episodes, our entire backlog of bonus episodes, which include reviews of the K's for Karaoke songs and chapters of the complex infrastructure known as the Female Mind Book. You'll also get stickers, guitar picks, and a special Patreon exclusive shirt when you've donated a lifetime contribution of $60.
Ooh, that sounds like fun. Where can I sign up again?
At patreon.com/Sadie Hawkins Pod. If you want to be a patron of the arts, the fine arts, the podcast arts, there's one place to go.
SadieHawkinsPod.com/ oh, wait, no, that's not it. I'm sorry, I panicked. I was about to say, and we're back, and then I realized that we're not done with the first bit yet. So usually, normally we come back, and I'm like, and deep dive, and then I'm like, oh no, wait, we're supposed to go over the lyrics, which usually falls more into your category there.
So who knows what we'll figure out as we go.
What we'll figure out?
So who knows what we'll figure out. This is all getting edited out. So who knows what we'll figure out as we go more in depth with this album over time.
There was definitely no editing there.
But it seems to me like there is definitely more abstraction and poeticism there's always poeticism in a Matt Thiessen lyric, but there's more abstract poeticism in this song and possibly in this album overall, maybe, we'll figure out over time, than the average Relient K album.
Yeah.
So this song is very hard to suss out. And maybe we'll suss out more of it as we go. I remember I was very confused on the song Where Do I Go From Here? Because
you really were.
It wasn't as concrete as the average Relient K song. And then when I figured out that it was a proto Forget Not Slow Down song, I was like, holy crap, this is so obvious. How did I not know this?
Right.
But now we're totally in the deep end. Now we're into like modern Thiessen and like postmodern Thiessen, and like we're really like this is the most recent work that we've ever covered on this show.
Even I consulted the absolutely lovely members of the Relient K Dark Web to ask what they thought this was about.
She did. So Jessica texted Josh.
Danny, no, you're not supposed to reveal their names.
Okay.
Gotta edit that out.
I'll bleep it. I'll just bleep the word reliable.
No!
So here we have...
Danny, you cannot expose my sources like that. It's not okay. They're going to kick me off the Relient K Vice Squad.
So there's a overall note on Genius for this song, and it says, released as the sole single from this album, Man of Stone narrates the approaching pressure the writer feels to become a stronger role model. And I'm like, if you say so.
Who posted this? Matt T?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't really
comment?
see since it's on the mobile page version. It doesn't tell me who wrote that note. So let's get into the lyrics. Verse 1, Matthew Thiessen singing. The time came when you had to hit the pavement. You grew it like a caveman. Never going clean again, venturing out on your own. Now I have to question, I guess we got to get a hard copy of this album. I just looked into it. The vinyl is expensive. It was rare. It's hard to get now, but the CD is still easy to get. So I'm going to order a CD for ourselves. But I don't know if the lyrics are published in the CD. Hopefully these are accurate lyrics.
I mean, verse 1, that first line, the time came when you had to hit the pavement. Pretty self-explanatory.
Right.
Got to get out of there.
You grew it like a caveman. What does that mean?
It's funny, never going clean again. I kind of read that as you grew a beard and never went back. I don't know. I don't know if that's correct. It's
you
probably
grew it like
not,
a caveman? You never going clean again. Okay, you grew it like a caveman.
Never going clean shaven again. Like,
okay,
Danny met me.
You grew
I
up
mentioned
like a caveman.
that 70s and 80s like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas and Martin Scorsese were totally my type. And Danny was like, oh, and suddenly, next thing I know, Danny has a beard and has never gone clean again. So it's not true.
Right.
He has gone clean. It's
Yeah. Sometimes I've misshaven and I've been like, oh, gotta shave it down. And she's like, what did you do? Get out of my home.
There's maybe been like a 2-week period here and there where I just can't look at Danny.
Okay, so there's maybe some sort of mixed metaphors here, but I get maybe that's, from what you just said, the time came when you had to hit the pavement, and hit the pavement is like, hey, you're a working Joe, you're on the beat, and you got to hit the pavement. Get out there and look for a job. Hit the pavement. Get out there and walk the streets. Not walk the streets like a prostitute, but walk the streets like a guy in the press. And you got to walk the pavement. You got to get out there and shake hands and figure out what's going on in the world. But then you grew it like a caveman.
And reporters.
Yeah. Never going clean again, venturing out on your own. So there's some mixed metaphor here, which I assume is deliberate, but like you had to hit the pavement. You had to work. Hit the pavement means work. And you grew it like a caveman, never going clean again. So is the mixed metaphor like you work, and you grew a big beard like a strong man does, and you never shaved it clean again, and you're venturing out on your own. The next lyric is venturing out on your own. So there's like 3 mixed metaphors there, but
well, I think the first line and the last line, you can combine together. The time came when you had to hit the pavement, venturing out on your own. Makes perfect sense. But you grew it like a caveman, never growing clean again. I kind of smushed those two together.
Is this a weird thing? Like, how like there are creative rhyme schemes? Like, most rhyme schemes are like what? Like A-B, or something like that. But then you can get creative with your rhyme schemes and you can rhyme them like A-A, B-A, or something. You know what I'm talking about? Like you kind of skip rhymes and you mix them up together and stuff. And I'm wondering if like the metaphor is like A, B, B, A. That's where the metaphors lie.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, maybe. I had to give it to you. And then going on to the next paragraph here. I had to give it to you. I was always acting cuckoo, thinking there was something that you'd actually be kind of scared of.
Wait.
But I will be a man of stone.
Do you have that? Because I have that I'd actually be kind of scared of.
I just misread
it.
Sorry.
Just making sure.
That I'd actually be kind of scared of. I had to give it to you. I was always acting cuckoo, thinking there was something that I'd actually be scared of. But I will be a man of stone.
I'll call you Clint Cuckoo.
I'll call you Clint Cuckoo. Best movie ever. I'm not even going to give context.
Start Cinema Cataclysm.
You know what? Cinema Cataclysm is our Matt Thiessen Earthquakes. Like we should have started it 2 years ago.
Exactly. No, more than that. I've owned those domains since 2016.
Chorus.
We can't start until our corporate overlord sends more money. And then we're like, shit, we actually have to do this.
So it is hard to like suss out everything being said here, but there is like, it's almost like, it's not maybe not beat poetry, but it is like stream of consciousness. These concepts of like what it means to be a man, which I guess goes hand in hand with the song we skipped this week, Dude, of being like, this is what it means to be a man of stone, a strong man, a role model. This is what it means to be that, like a caveman who's growing his beard, and I'm feeling kind of scared, but I'll be a man of stone, and I'm feeling kind of crazy because this is hard to do, but I'll be a man of stone, and I'm venturing out on my own, but I'm going to be a man of stone. Like, I get that it's kind of like a stream of consciousness, almost like beat poetry thing happening here about what it means to be a man.
We did not speak about this before, but something that I personally did not come across in my deep dive until I deep dove into dark Relient K deep web was that, but you came across, was that this was potentially co-written with
Cable Owens.
Caleb.
Bone Owens. Caleb Owens. What did I say?
Cable
Bones
Owens, aka
Cable
Bones
Man.
Owens.
Bones
And
Owens. Yeah.
so it's sort of interesting, and I'm sort of wondering what came in where. I'm on Genius right now, so I don't have the actual buy line other than just the artist that I can find. It's interesting because I do this every week, and yet this particular Genius page tells you who's singing when, which
Right.
I don't come across ever
Yeah.
on this podcast.
Because we don't, because it's, they
But
don't
Dave
tell us when
sings.
it's Dave
They
singing
don't
or
tell
when it's Hoop
us.
singing.
Yeah.
Hoop sang Balloon Ride. We weren't 100% sure of that, but we got confirmation at the Boston show
But
when they were just
there's a
talking about
female
stuff.
singer on here and on this album, and it is noted, not annotated, but noted here. Whereas under
Emily
the verses where I don't
Schmidley.
get that usually.
Ellie Schmidley. So I skipped the chorus, but the chorus is take it down, break it over until they fit together, move the pieces all around, break it over from now on, it's up to me to set the tone. From now on, I will be a man of stone.
It's another Bad Friend
From now
Thiessen
on.
song.
It is another Bad Friend Thiessen
It's
song.
I messed up, and I'm gonna do better, and I'm gonna be a man of stone, and I'm gonna be a good boy.
But it's much more of an abstract Bad Friend Thiessen
Yes.
song than anything we've seen in Relient K. So then we get to verse 2, which is credited here on Genius to Matt Thiessen and Ellie Schmidley. And apparently they sing together in harmony the following words. You got your ink, but you think you might have taken it too far before forsaking it. You covered up your nakedness. And then apparently it's Thiessen alone singing the final line of this verse. Now all your own is curtain closed.
Now all
you own is curtain closed. Sorry.
And I could see why you would, especially given the time of this release, view that as that you've got your ink line to be like, you got your
Tattoos.
I was gonna say signature on the divorce papers.
Oh, okay.
Also, I didn't know if maybe here there was something about like they were trying to do he was trying to do like a play on words with like you can't get blood from a stone, you can't get ink from a stone, but
okay.
there is like Japanese ink stone like
Right.
writing.
And
So
bamboo, they use bamboo to do tattoos, although you were not talking about tattoos.
Nope, not at
I'm
all.
the one reading the tattoo for the you got your ink. So you got your ink, but you think you might have taken it too far before forsaking it. You covered up your nakedness. Now all you own is curtain clothes. That's so strange. I've never heard the phrase curtain clothes, but I'm guessing is that like making clothes out of curtains. Now
like
we didn't.
a potato sack dress or something like I
Maybe.
Love Lucy.
Now, we didn't talk about Thiessen's divorce from this time overall, but when we started this podcast, we were fully under the impression that Matt Thiessen was married to Emily. And we don't talk about, I don't really care about any of my favorite artists' relationships overall. It's just, the thing is, we're doing this podcast and it kind of gets in depth on things. And we've never talked specifically about the relationship that is Forget Not Slow Down, but we talk about it in the Vegas way. In the vaguest way, not the Vegas way. But we, what happened here was we were like, apparently we start this podcast and then we start learning from people that like, oh, Thiessen's not married to Emily anymore. And we're like, what? And that's not like online anymore. And then when I was talking to reliable Josh McTarrigan, he was explaining like, yeah, like they got divorced and they just didn't like make it like super public, and it's not like edited into their Wikipedias and stuff like that. And, you know, it's just not like anyone's business. But then Thiessen clearly has a new girlfriend on Instagram and stuff, you know, that he talks about. And he talked about her on the Yeah tour and everything. So it's like, okay, clearly they are like accepting open, like they are divorced, like it happened. So that's apparently where we come from as these naive fans who want to bother doing a weekly Relient K podcast and have no idea that Matt Thiessen isn't married anymore, and that this album is kind of in reaction to the ending of his marriage. So yeah, it's like, you know, you've got your ink on a divorce paper, and like suddenly you're forsaking it, I guess, is maybe like the forsaking of their wedding vows, maybe, and all you own is curtain clothes. I don't really understand exactly what that means.
So I googled curtain clothes.
Okay.
And TV tropes popped up, and it says drapery/upholstery fabrics are usually wider than fabrics woven for clothing use, which means you can make a seriously pimped out dress without needing to piece the fabric together. You can also get a set of draperies at the Goodwill for less than the cost of the equivalent yardage at the fabric store. So I'm like, and I, based on some of the like Instagram users that I follow, I know that like you can definitely, especially with like the retro sort of look, buy, you know, like old 70s curtains and stuff and make them into clothing.
Right.
So maybe that is just some sort of fun hipstery thing that his ex-wife used to do.
Okay. Well, I don't think I was too far off in assuming that maybe the "You Got Your Ink" is a tattoo reference. Maybe it's both. Maybe it's simultaneously both divorce papers and tattoo. But the next line is, "It's not a sin when your skin is telling everything." I don't know.
That's a good point.
Curtain clothes, and you're covering up your nakedness, but there is ink involved, which could be ink on divorce papers, but it could be ink on the skin.
Okay, fair.
So
very fair.
Again, more mixed metaphors, I think, on purpose as maybe a riddle, but is what's happening here. Like, there is nakedness, there is abandonment, there is forsakenness, as the word forsaken is in this song. And did they have matching tattoos? Were there tattoos, possibly during their marriage? And that tattoo tells something, but they're forsaking that. And there's, like, you feel abandoned and naked when you are divorced and a relationship breaks up. And all you've got left is the curtain clothes. I don't know. I think this is deliberately being very riddle-like in its mixing of like 3 or 4 metaphors at a time. I think it's far beyond the typical Relient K interpretation that I will come up with, where I will say, I think here Matt Thiessen is talking about a relationship with a girl, but he's also talking about a relationship with Christ in their big hits. I think, to just kind of mislead you, to kind of let you figure out what it's about. I think even more than that, here he's like super mixing things up, like saying like, maybe it's like, you know what? And maybe it comes back to the thing that like they got divorced sometime around, I don't even know when. I don't understand. I'm so out of the loop. They got divorced sometime around 2016, 17, 18, sometime around there.
It's very weird for us to dive this deep into this. It's like...
They got divorced somewhere around 2016, 17, 18, somewhere in there, right? And they decide that this is not for immediate public knowledge. We're not going to put out a press release. Like, no one's going to know about this until eventually you see Matt Thiessen. No, absolutely. But then, like, eventually you see Matt Thiessen has a girlfriend on Instagram. So if you're paying attention, you're like, oh, I guess he got divorced. So it's like adding to that sort of sense of this is none of your business in my personal life. All of these very, very dense metaphors, he's getting at what he needs to get out. but in such a dense metaphorical way so as to like not immediately communicate it to anyone who wants to like figure out exactly what's going on.
As the proper Christian podcast that we are, we do not condone divorce. Unless you qualify for an annulment.
Very specific. So, here's the line I want to hear what Jessica has to say about.
Oh boy.
It's not a sin when your skin is telling everything. How could you ever lie about the girls that you were trying out? Lori, Laura, Lauren Rose. What does that mean? Because I'll tell you what it sounds like. The girls that you were trying out? Like, it sounds like the girl you were with.
I have questions about this.
Like,
and I'm
if
like,
it meant something else, like, I'm really sorry to interpret it this way. But that line really sounds like, it really sounds like the girl you're with was, like, making out with, or possibly more than that, with chicks named Lori, Laura, and Lauren Rose. If it means something else, I'm really sorry. Like, I'm not just being, like, I'm trying to see something else. I just don't understand. This song's such a puzzle. I'm really confused on that line.
if this is not self-reflective, if this is not a self-reflective line versus a projecting line, particularly towards, based on what we've kind of read into the former lyrics, being about a woman? Could be about a guy. Whatever. Either which way.
Oh,
it's
right.
very
I guess it
much
could be a
like,
guy trying. A guy
who are you
being
shaming, bitch?
Right.
Like, who are you shaming?
Very
What's
confusing.
going on here? It gets very muddled.
Because the whole
in
song
this section.
overall, with at the very least, with the genius overall annotation that this song is supposedly another Matthew Thiessen song. That this song is about trying to be a better man, be a man of stone, be a strong man, be a better role model. Like, yeah, I guess if he's singing about himself, he's like, maybe he was with these other three ladies that all happened to start with.
Well, I mean, I'm sure
names.
that's just artistic license. But
then if
even if he
singing,
is singing about
really
another guy, like a bud,
right,
or otherwise, because
I just don't understand. I'm not trying to figure out the most, the most scandalous version of this lyric, but this is just such a puzzling song overall. And if we're totally off, if other people have better reads on this song, please let us know. I know that Jessica, as she was upset because I outed her sources, she had DM'd someone to say, do you have a better read on this song? Let's just say one of them was reliable Josh.
Danny!
And he said, like,
no one will trust me ever again. What are you doing?
He's like, what did you say? What did Josh McTarrigan say?
I'm not telling you.
Well, when you told me what he said, it seemed to be overall that it seems to be about dealing with his divorce. But then Josh said, I can't really get a beat on anything else going on in this song. And we're the same way. You know what? I can't believe that it took me so long to get a beat on where do I go from here, because this is like, where do I go from here is like a 4-piece puzzle compared to this, which is like the 300-piece puzzle.
Listen.
Okay.
Look, as someone whose name was used in Lou Bega's Mambo No. 5,
Oh, yeah.
I feel for Lori, Laura, and Lauren Rose. I just want to say.
I feel for them, even though I have no idea what their part is in this song. Who are they being tried out for, with, who, where, when?
All the Loris, Lauras, and Lauren Roses. I feel you, girl.
I mean, Mambo No. 5. Jessica talks about this every once in a while. How she got made fun of in school because she was one of the names in Mambo No. 5 when she was like 8.
That's exactly the time to do it. That's prime time for teasing.
Okay. It's prime time for teasing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not for Lou Bega. How dare you?
No, I know.
Listen, Lou Bega just wanted a little bit of Jessica In his life by his side. I don't remember now. I haven't listened to that song since 2001.
Anyway. But I'm saying, like, yeah, I get what you're saying, but that Lou Bega song is, it's quite clearly what it's about. I don't know what's going on in this song. Let's just be honest. He's a man of stone. Is he the Thing? Is he the Thing? Is he, what other men of stone are out there? The Stone Soldiers from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? What other stone men are out there?
Quite the reference.
Abraham Lincoln Memorial? He's a man of stone.
All right.
Anyway.
Are we done with the lyrics?
I guess we're done with the lyrics. So let's hear your deep dive. I think we figured out as much as we can figure out about this puzzling song. And maybe we'll figure out more in the future.
Well, Hot Pop Today had some album release news for this album. Relient K's Matt Thiessen to release solo album Wind Up Bird. And then it's like a picture, a black and white picture in landscape mode now of Thiessen standing in the middle of like a wall with a grate on one side, and the other side it says, exactly, April, it says, "Who are you and why are you here?" Question mark. Matt Thiessen, the frontman of punk rock band Relient K, oh boy, is releasing his first solo album.
That's the quaintest of the... When we started this podcast and I was like, Relient K is not a punk band, blah, blah, blah. Like, that was in our, like, single-digit episodes. That was the quaintest of arguments that we would ever have on this podcast overall.
He's releasing his first solo...
April agrees.
April. Is releasing his first solo album.
You okay?
You did this. You dick.
I didn't do this at all.
You gave her food.
I gave her a little bit of pita bread, and now she thinks all that pita bread up there is for her.
Relient K is releasing his first solo album, Wind Up Bird, under the moniker...
Relient K is releasing his first solo album?
Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes on August 31st. You can listen to the mesmerizing first single from the album Man of Stone on Spotify now. And then there is a screen cap of Spotify with only Man of Stone on there, which I think is kind of interesting now. Thiessen has used the Earthquakes moniker in the past to release a handful of piano-driven solo songs that appeared on different compilation albums, including original tracks, The Calendar, The Energy, open parentheses, If This Is You, Then Woe Is Me, close parentheses, and Poison Ivy, a cover of the Beach Boys song, The Warmth of the Sun, and a demo of the song Faking My Own Suicide, which later appeared on Relient K's fifth studio album 7 years ago. Check out the track list for Wind Up Bird below, and then it says it. And then it says, if you want to hear those Earthquake songs live, you can check out Matty T and Band on Owl City's North American Fall Tour.
I remember that happening, but I don't think we were able to go to that, or it wasn't around us, or something like that.
Then we have a Jesus Freak Hideout review, and I feel like I don't even know if any other Relient K albums have been rated this highly. Oddly, it has 4.5 out of 5 stars. Matthew Thiessen, The Earthquakes, Wind Up Bird. Genres, folk/Americana. Album length, 11 tracks, 35 minutes, 6 seconds. Street date, August 31st, 2018. Reader rating. Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes is a band name that has been floating around for the last 17 years at this point. My first recollection of the name is from 2001's Happy Christmas Volume 3 compilation. The song I Hate Christmas Parties, later released on Relient K's own Christmas album, was first credited to Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes. Since that time, I, along with many other fans, have been eagerly waiting for an Earthquakes album to no avail. Most thought it would never happen, as it seemed Thiessen felt comfortable to do almost anything he wanted through Relient K after breaking away from the pop-punk sound. However, 2018 is the year that this project finally comes to fruition. What was anticipated as a piano-laden release is actually chock full of acoustic guitar and trumpet with very little piano included at all. The album opens with Dude, which sort of seems like Man Part 2.
Right, which I think we said.
Yeah,
No, I think we said that in our Man episode. We did Man, right?
Yes, and I think that you did mention that it had a Dude sort of sound to it.
Right.
With a very similar theme to the song Man from Relient K's Air for Free. Thiessen sings Should Have Known By Now, should have grown into a full-size dude. If you're locked in a cage, who is coming to save you? The playful opener leads into the more serious-sounding first song released from the album Man of Stone. The guitar features a great finger-picked melody with a lot of heavy hammer-ons for accents. As the song progresses, a trumpet enters into the mix prominently and adds a great sound that you won't get from Relient K. Forest, inspired by Roger Miller's Robin Hood and Little John, follows and is an album favorite, as Thiessen sings about Robin Hood and Little John, and of course Maid Marian. Ellie Schmidley gets her first extended look on vocals in this song, and she is fantastic. The track is super smooth sounding. The bass guitar and trumpet fit perfectly together, and features an excellent groove. Oedipus, a Greek mythological hero with a tragic tale, is up next and talks about unfulfilled dreams.
Didn't join up to this podcast to be taught things. I don't need to be taught things.
And life's quick passing. I'm sorry. All I can think about is an Oedipus complex. So
right. I mean, we'll get to it when we do that song.
Yep. The reversed content starting at the 2:44 mark is simply the lyric "Bye so fast," followed by extended O's. Closing in on the halfway mark, we find another great song in Climb. I know that one. It's the climb.
Right.
The acoustic band number has a really catchy rhythm and features Thiessen with one of his best vocal performances on the album. Mother's Triumph continues. Sorry, I just realized there's a song named Oedipus and Mother's Triumph on the same album. Continues the album in a very positive direction and was written for Matt Thiessen's
Hear all about them on Sadie Hawkins' pod.
For his mother-in-law. Possibly the strangest song on the album is Higher Power. Matt uses a lot of silly words and its meaning has eluded me since the day my pre-order CD arrived. He sings, "Won't you let me be your higher power? Golly gee willikers, I got the heebie-jeebies, bone-chilling, feely burrs right up my spiny sleeve." That is a mouthful. Don't know what I should do. Don't know if I should believe.
Look forward to all of this on Sadie Hawkins' pod.
Don't know if I believe. It could be up to you. Clearly, it's up to me to be happy and loving and gracious and kind to the people and good to the places where I can live wholehearted days full of sweet, sweet joy. OMG. Why did we have to put the whole song in here?
You know what? We're going to do all these songs. Do we really need to hear anything else of this review if it's just going to be repeating
all right, I'll just
lyrics
finish
of songs
up.
we'll do in the future?
All right, I'll just finish up this paragraph.
Okay.
Ellie's part comes after and seemingly goes in an entirely different direction before coming back to those same opening lyrics. It's a nice song with a lot of piano, but it may land as a little awkward to some. Clean Sweep is another exceptional song with some electric guitars and overdrive. It could easily be a Relient K tune. And then I will leave it there. And we will come back to that at a later date. Then we have a Reddit post about the lyrics.
Oh. No, I want to hear this.
It has 8 comments and 11 upvotes.
Oh, okay.
r/Relient K 4 years ago by DCBSN. Something cool I noticed about the lyrics to Man of Stone. In the first two choruses, the lyrics go, take it down, break it over, until they fit together, move all the pieces all around. Move the pieces all around. In the last chorus, the lyrics are, break it down, take it over. It's as if the words are the pieces he moved them around, quote unquote, so that they, quote unquote, fit together and form the right phrases. That's cool. Yeah, I saw that, and I don't think we got there quite in the lyrics, but that's definitely like a fun little like puzzle type thing. Tay Likes 3 years ago responded, I am unfamiliar with this song. TJMO123 responded that it was from the Earthquakes album. Then open brackets, deleted close brackets 3 years ago said, good observation. He actually takes it an extra step, and the chorus has 3 versions. 1, take it down, break it over until they fit together, move the pieces all around, break it over. 2, take it down, break it over until they fit together, move the pieces all around, take it over.
Oh, nice.
3, break it down, take it over until they fit together, move the pieces all around, take it over.
Wow, okay. I'm glad this person's doing our job for us.
Yes, same. Until they fit together for the final version. Thiessen moves the pieces all around. High quality wordplay.
Interesting.
And then Awesomest Cody 3 years ago said, the song is better than I expected. It reminds me of John Foreman's season EPs. I hope the rest of the album has the same feel. Which is interesting. And then we actually have 2 TikToks.
Oh, wow, okay. I wouldn't have even thought of it. I never do, but I wouldn't have thought of this.
Spinning it around to you, if you can tell us what we're working with.
Okay, well, the 2 max res defaults are, one is like a little kid, and it says, which one is me? It's like a picture of a little kid like 9 times, and it says, which one is me? We'll find out what that is when I click it. And the other one is a person who I guess has a filter on them where they look kind of like, I don't know, like mannequin-esque, sort of anime-esque. Let's click that one first. Oh, this might be art. Makeup. This is makeup. Okay, so this says Carcat Cosplay, Caracantavante Cosplay.
So it's cosplay. Cool.
It's it's Homestruck Cosplay. So this person is doing cosplay as a character from Homestruck, which I have never played. And they're just lip syncing the song along to the song. Interesting. I can't describe their look. It's just kind of anime-esque. It's kind of video game, indie game-esque. They got like candy corn horns on their head.
Oh, yeah.
And they've got a hoodie that has like sort of like a Pisces logo on it, right? That's a Pisces logo, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And this was uploaded by ultimate.gremlin, GRIMLEM.
April's my ultimate gremlin.
So this one might be a little bit more complex. This is 9 pictures of a little boy lip syncing the song, and it says, which one is me? Well, it just looks like all of them are him. I don't understand. This is, okay, these are like the weirdest TikToks ever. And we've talked about TikTok here and there, but I just don't understand.
Welcome to TikTok, Danny.
It's a boy singing the song, but it's 9 different frames of the same little boy singing the song, and it says, which one is me? They all look like him. I don't understand the conceit.
What is the age thing on TikTok? This child seems far too young to be on the TikTok.
And it looks like it is actually this child's TikTok.
Oh, goodness.
Interesting, because this is C Banks on TikTok, and when I clicked into the I was like, is this their parent? And they uploaded a thing of their kid. No, this is like the kid's TikTok page, and when you click into it, it says this person has no content, and I'm like, I swear we just saw content. So,
alrighty.
Mind-bending, like strange, very, as complex and confusing as the song itself are the TikToks to this song.
Amazing. Then we have a blog, and this is a whole album review from Blogging the B-Sides.
No!
Thoughts on music and culture in the past, present, and future in the album review, Matt Thiessen and the Earthquakes, Wind Up Bird. So we'll at least see what they have to say about, it's pretty, it's all right in length. In 2018, Matt Thiessen of Relient K fame put out a full album called Wind Up Bird. It has many of the characteristic sounds of what fans love about Relient K, but there's also a bit of a mood shift in Thiessen's writing with this new project. We'll explore that a bit here. Opening tracks Dude and Man of Stone both hit with a powerful pop rock sentiment. There are some intriguing harmonies on both tracks, as is typical of the Beach Boys aficionado Thiessen. There's a sense...
what's funny is that, like, any review could say anything about what genres this album is going for, and I'd be like, oh, yeah, cool. Whereas all other reviews about Relient K, when they're like, this is hardcore punk rock, and we're like, no, you're a moron. Listen to what Sadie Hawkins' pod has to say about that. But when it comes to Thiessen and Earthquakes, you could say this is anything, and I'd be like, cool, that's exactly what this is.
A little less familiar with this particular genre.
Right.
There's a sense of questioning personal identity on both tracks that get the album off to a great start. And I'll leave it there since we then move on. And then I have one other, if I can find it. Here we go. This is from Merlot23, who we visited before with different Relient K reviews. And I'm just going to go to I'm going to give their brief, sort of synopsis, and then go down specifically to the song because they grade each song.
All right.
So Matt Thiessen, the Earthquakes, Wind Up Bird. And then it says twee, open parentheses, T, and parentheses, pop. They give it a B- grade. In brief, it's actually not far off a stylistic leap from some of the mellower material on Relient K's latest album to their lead singer's first solo album. Whether I enjoy the clever indie/baroque pop arrangements and witty wordplay, I have to admit that only a handful of Thiessen's songs on this album continue to stand out in my mind, beyond the initial novelty of hearing him do an acoustic record. And then it just gives some background on Thiessen and the Earthquakes.
Okay. Save this, I guess.
Individual tracks. Man of Stone. There's probably a lot more to this album's lead single than I'm ever going to unearth. It's the catchiest song on the record by far, while also being one of its densest in the lyrics department. Once again, I appreciate how the song is built around an acoustic arpeggio, not just a riff made up of simple chords. And there's a more prominent backbeat once the song gets going than what you'll hear on most of the album. Thiessen, a curiously confessional tone as he hints that he might not have been the squeaky clean role model that the prying eyes of the Christian music industry might have expected him to be all these years.
Fair enough. I didn't think of it that way, but I don't have any I don't have any ability to contest that, so that makes sense as an interpretation.
Quote, you got your ink, but you think you might have taken it too far by forsaking it. You cover up your nakedness. Now all you own is curtain clothes. It's not a sin when your skin is telling everything. How could you ever lie about the girls that you were trying out?
I didn't think of ink also as like press. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a very good
Who
point.
knows?
I hadn't either.
Nobody knows. I don't know if Matt Thiessen even knows.
But enough of this song is cryptic that it's hard for me to say for sure that he's coming to a specific conclusion about any of these romantic or sexual dalliances, or even what's real and what's fictional. This is all stuff that just seemed to have been swirling around in his head, and that, I'm assuming, didn't need the baggage of being released on a Relient K album and poured over by listeners with more of a perceived agenda for what their music is supposed to be about. Excuse me.
What?
We don't come here with any sort of an agenda every week. Thank you very much, Merlot23. By the time he throws a bit of the Boy Scout motto, "On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country," into the bridge, I've given up on making
Giving
much
up,
sense
giving
of
up
it.
slowly. I'm blending in so you won't even know me.
But this song
those
sure
familiar words.
But this song sure is an intoxicating mixture of odd images and fun sounds. Grade A. That's funny because we actually did not go over that part of the lyrics, which is annotated. The "On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country." And
Right.
I am familiar with that because I was a Girl Scout back in the day, and the Girl Scout law that we did was, "On my honor, I will try to serve God and my country, to do something that I can't remember now at all times, and to live by the Girl Scout law."
Right.
Good, something like that, which Juliette Gordon-Low, founder of the Girl Scouts, the Girl Scouts Museum is in Savannah, Georgia.
Oh, okay.
So
interesting.
little Relient K background and lore and stuff there.
That is the only Genius annotation specifically on a lyric of the song, but I don't know if they
To help people at all times and live by the Girl Scout law. Sorry.
No, it's in reference to Boy Scouts.
I know, but I'm telling you, it's to help people at all times and to live by the Girl Scout law.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Funny
because Girl Scouts, Laura, Lauren, and Lori Rose.
Because we went on, and I don't remember if I mentioned this in our Savannah episode or not, but when I was a kid and in Girl Scouts, I lived in the Atlanta suburbs. We went on a trip to Savannah to visit the birthplace of the Girl Scouts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So good stuff. That's fun. That's a fun little
I got a question.
thing there.
I got a question. Did you see that Pinewood all transforming?
I mean, I suppose I was rather young, but
like Transformers.
Oh, no.
I didn't think of that when we did the Savannah song, but I realized clearly he's referencing Transformers there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just like that.
I can't do a Transformer sound.
Oh, no.
I can't. That's the best Transformer sound I can make with my mouth.
Well, that's what I have this week. What do you have for us, Dan?
Oh, we're definitely over 2 hours at this point.
Oopsie.
So let's go straight to the cover, and then we will hear the live versions that exist of this song.
Look at you switching things up a bit.
This is by friend of the pod, Adam Goff, who recorded a cover, the only known cover of this song,
Whoop, whoop.
on his YouTube page. Here it is. Adam says, "It's nighttime again. I really should try to record earlier in the day, but I also kind of like the aesthetic. Quarantine day 11. Oh, yeah. So this is April 25th, 2020. I love the album Wind Up Bird and this song. I hope I didn't butcher it with my vocal range. I can totally hit those notes. Totally. This is even 2 keys down from the original. Matt Thiessen is every breath you take laced... Oh, Matt Thiessen, is every breath you take laced with helium? Good question. We will write that down as a possible question to ask if we ever interview him. Do you take helium before you record?" So here is Adam Goff's cover of Man of Stone.
Fit together, move the pieces all around, break it over. From now on, it's up to me to set the tone. From now on, I will be a man of stone. but you think you might have taken it too far before forsaking it. You covered up your nakedness. Now all you own is curtain clothes. It's not a sin when your skin is telling everything. How could you ever lie about the girls that you've been trying out? Lori, Lauren Rose.
I think the first time I heard the line Laura Rose, I was like, that's a long name. I was like, that's one name for one girl. But that's amazing. That's a great cover, Adam. As always.
I like Adam's version.
Jessica likes Adam's version better. That's very nice. But let's see how you feel about... I have 4 live versions of the song, and they are all a little different in that I have a version where it's just Thiessen on acoustic, and that's it. I have a full band version, and I have 2 versions where it's just Thiessen, where it's almost just Thiessen, but Robert Gay is also there on trumpet.
Nice.
So which of those are you interested in hearing? The duo of Robert and Thiessen? Or do you want to hear that first? Okay. So here is Atlanta 2018, and this is Thiessen and the Earthquakes.
Then we'll go to like the solo stuff.
Yeah. And this is I can never pronounce this word when I'm looking at it. Opius?
Oedipus?
Oedipus. I can never say that word when I'm looking at it written. Oedipus. This is an Oedipus and Man of Stone double live YouTube video uploaded by Kevin Kelly with an extra E before the Y. And I will skip ahead to the Man of Stone performance, live from Atlanta 2018.
The time came when you had to hit the pavement. Grew like a caveman, never going clean again. Venturing out on your own. I had to give it to you, I was always acting good. Thinking there was something that actually needed conversation. But I will be the Man of Stone. Take it down, break it over. Until we get together with the pieces all around. Take it over. From now on.
And I'm just seeing here right now, this is Center Stage in Atlanta 2018 on the Owl City Cinematic Tour. So when the Earthquakes opened for Owl City, which compares to some of the other videos I have here, which I'm pretty sure are like Thiessen and the Earthquakes headlining shows, but like more low-key events,
Gotcha.
More low-key shows.
I mean, yeah, sounds like the album.
It does, and the audience sounds bigger than some of these other videos I found. So let's at least get to when Robert plays trumpet on this song.
Heck yeah.
You got your anchor, but you think you might take it too far before forsaking it. You covered up your nakedness. Now all you own is curtain clothes. It's not a sin when your skin's done everything. How could you ever lie about the girls that you were trying out? Lauren Rose. Take it down, break it over. Until they fit together, move the pieces all around.
And Robert's singing backup vocals here. And you know, Thiessen, at least on this podcast and maybe elsewhere, I've never heard it specifically, gets a lot of crap for playing thumbs on his guitar in Relient K. But no one's gonna discredit that or be like, what's up with that when it comes to playing this sort of folky indie pop thing, you know what I mean? So
I'm warming up to this song.
Especially the it's hearing it live, the diddle diddle like that.
Yeah.
That really quick diddle diddle that I don't know what you call that. I don't know what you call that in a competent musicality.
That's what you come here for.
I know.
Non-music takes.
But it just sounds so, it sounds so full, even though it is just Thiessen on guitar and then Robert playing trumpet a little bit. But then there's another acoustic version we can play as well. So let's play that, and then we'll play the full band version. So this is just Thiessen. This is this. Oh yeah, and this is important. This is the City Winery in Nashville, Tennessee, 2017, before the album was released. So this is when he's still kind of playing around with these songs.
Okay.
And he has a little bit of an explainer at the beginning before he launches into the song.
But yeah, this song's about me and Caleb and about, I don't know, a lot of these songs are about my life as it is right now. I feel like I'm at a turning point and trying to turn in a really good direction and do really good things, and that's what this song's about.
So there he mentioned Caleb, which must be Caleb Bones, aka Caleb Owens, who we've brushed against information about here and there on this podcast, especially during, what was it, like, those were Collapsible Lung
songs, yeah.
So here he says,
I wish I could remember one off the top of my head.
Right. So here he's like, this song is about me and Caleb, I guess. Although something obviously got cut off before this YouTube video, so I don't know if that means he wrote the song with Caleb. Hopefully in the future we will have a hard copy of the album and have some actual credits to read. But yeah, I guess it's about, at the very least, him and Caleb. I also, just to double check, like, he is talking about Caleb Owens, right? So I googled Matt Thiessen Caleb, and one of the top things that comes up is this tweet where Matt Thiessen is plugging Caleb's new solo song from from many years ago.
Gotcha.
And he's like, one of my best friends, so
gotcha.
He considers him one of his best friends. Okay. So here is more of Matt Thiessen playing this song, totally solo, no full band, no Robert Gaye on trumpet, just Matt Thiessen. At a winery. Ooh. What's everyone drinking? Some of that cab, some of that blended red. Drinking any white wines? I saw Sideways. I don't remember anything from it.
The time came when you had to hit the pavement. You grew like a caveman, never going clean again. Venturing out on your own. I had to give it to you, I was always acting cool, thinking there was something there, actually be kinda scared that I would be a man of stone. Take it down, break it over.
I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit and hear more further into the song.
I never saw Sideways, but I believe at that same year, up for also an Oscar in screenwriting and other things, was the movie Adaptation.
Okay.
And I only got as far in that movie as when the main character, I believe Nicolas Cage, was backing out of a driveway and didn't look both ways and got both of his parents killed, and that upset me greatly as a teen, and I stopped watching and didn't bother to move on to Sideways.
I've seen that movie and I don't remember that, but I know that Adaptation is kind of like a meta movie, so I don't know. Here's further into this acoustic performance at the City Winery in Nashville, 2017.
From now on, well, I will be a man of stone. From now on my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country. To God and my country. Break it down, take it over.
And then we have one more.
Sorry, Adaptation was 2002 and Sideways was 2004. And I did finish Adaptation apparently, but I could have sworn they were from the same year. In my mind, they live in the same space.
All right. I am humiliated that you thought those movies
Oscar
were the same
fodder
year.
that no one watches after that year.
Like, who talks about either of those movies anymore? People probably talk about Adaptation because people talk about Charlie Kaufman here and there. Oh, and definitely people talk about Nick Cage right now. Everyone's all about Nick Cage because Nick Cage is
already is that like
he's
meta
just
movie
the
or
bee's
something?
knees, and he's got this great movie about himself. So here is Man of Stone by Matt Thiessen and the Earthquakes at Madison Live, June 22nd, 2018. And this is with more of a full band. So there's at least four people on stage. I don't know if there's also a drummer back there. But there's four people on stage for sure. And here we go.
You grew it like a caveman, never going clean again. Venturing out on your own.
So far, exactly the same as all the other live versions we've listened to just now. But, ooh, it's going to get bigger. It's going to get live band styling.
Yikes, I was way too young to see adaptation now that I'm looking at the dates. But you know what? You know what else was around in 2002? Netflix. You know what Netflix didn't ask you for? How old you were.
Not back then.
Not back then. Back then, you could rent and get a physical disc of just about any movie. So
if only there was some way to get Netflix to buy you beer, you would have been all set.
Nah, I was a good kid aside from watching movies that I was probably a little too young for and could definitely I would definitely not want that. I wouldn't even ask.
From now, it's up to me to set the tone. From now on, I will be a man of stone. From now on.
Okay, I'm vibing like way
With
more to the live
full
version.
band live version, yeah.
Like those drums came in, I'm like, ooh, yeah, I'm feeling this.
And one other thing as we kind of get ready to close up shop is I'm just thinking about the song overall. I'm like, okay, the song is about trying, like Dude and like the song Man by Relient K, the song's about trying to be a man, trying to be a better role model, trying to be a better example. It seems to be a heightened, more mature version of the Best Friend Thiessen songs that we always come across. I'm still reticent to call this an actual Bad Friend Thiessen song because it's not exactly that. It's like very close to it, but it's clearly more. It's just clearly a little bit more mature than that. But then Man of Stone, you know what I mean? Like I'm just forming this thought, but it's like. He wants to be a better role model. He wants to be a better man. Something went wrong and he needs to improve himself. And he'll be a man of stone. But being a man of stone isn't a good thing, is it? Like being like an uncarved, like unmovable object, being like completely like man of stone makes you think void of emotion, unable to be changed, unable to grow. Like stones don't grow. Stones can only deteriorate over time. So I'm like, is there some satire here? Is there some level of him saying like, I have f***ed up and I need to be a better man, but in almost like a Bob Dylan way, where Bob Dylan would like weave genuine thought with complete like satire over the top hyperbole, is he's kind of saying like, I need to be a better man, so I'm going to be a cold man of stone. And that's kind of like a satire in a way. I don't know, because it's hard to get a beat on this song at all, so it's hard to know if that's what
Well, a Taoist would say that the uncarved block is the best way to be. But a wise man would also build his house upon the rock. So there's that, whereas you want to be like, you're like a rock, you're that steadfast sort of,
right,
you know, unmoving figure in someone's life. You don't necessarily look at that as like a thing that could crumble, but as something that is a steady ever presence in your life.
I will be a man of stone. I will be steady. I will be a man who is steady.
Yeah.
I will be a steadfast man. I will be a steadfast man. He should have just sang it that way. I'm just kidding. He's the artist. He can sing whatever he wants. So I don't know. It's hard to tell. But I'll be interested.
I think it's more of that, like, you know, like I will be that like strong, sturdy, ever standing presence.
Okay, all right.
Is what he's trying to emulate.
Right.
In his personal life.
Right. Well, I feel like we've barely cracked the case. But we have more of these songs to do. But we'll be back next week with another Relient K song. With an actual Relient K song. So, Jessica, what do you think of Man of Stone by Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes? Do you like it the same, more or less, depending on what relationship you had to the song before? Do you like it more, or do you like it less than before we decided to discuss this song this week?
Well, since we decided, and then I listened to it for possibly the first time, I think, I like it more, obviously, in that respect. But since even starting recording, I think I like it more.
Well, there you go. I feel like I like it about the same.
Okay.
I can only base this off of having listened to it earlier this week into today. I think I don't like it any more now that we've discussed it, but I definitely like it the same. And I just need to get in the vibe of this kind of music and see how it goes when we do more songs from this album in the coming months. Maybe we'll do like one of these a month or one every 2 months or something like that. We'll see how it goes depending on how many Relient K songs we have left. Relient K, put out more music. Or Thiessen and the Earthquakes.
I just realized that we followed up our not Relient K episode with more not Relient K. And I'm like, Danny, why was this the decision? But thank you. I hope you all enjoyed this extra long episode of Not Relient K. To make up for the Sonic episode last week.
Make up for the Sonic episode last week? You should all be so privileged to get a Sonic episode.
Thank you all for listening. And for those of you kiddos who are in school and took midterms recently and had spring break, I hope you all did well. Thank you so much. And have a good week.